Hey, Instagram. Dave Pearson here, Regional Educator for L'Oreal Professional. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. All right, we've got some people joining. Awesome. Well, today what we're going to be focusing on is a technique where we're going to be doing a color melt at the root area, and then we're going to be doing some slight touches of what we're calling baby balayage around her face, so right around the face frame, and then we're going to give her just a little bit of brightness also around her face. So we're talking about color melting up here, color melting down here, and then going back and doing small little baby lights just around her face to give her a nice little pop of color. And then what we're going to do is we're going to kind of pull this hair back with a tool. Thanks to Nancy Braun, she taught me this little trick. Use one of these butterfly clips. And what you do is when you're really wanting to get your guest's hairline to be touched with some balayage and a little brightness, if you take your little butterfly clip and you pull the hair back, what it does is it actually gives you beautiful lines that you can identify into which ones you want to paint. All right, so you see those little lines it creates? So you can actually pick which one of those light pieces that you want to paint your balayage on, so she'll get some nice brightness right off of her face. So I think it's always a great trick. The reason why this is called baby balayage is we are basically trying to help you figure out a way to increase your revenue behind the chair by coming up with services that you can add on to what you're already doing. So if you're already doing your single process touch-up, there is no reason why you can't add a baby balayage service to that. So let's talk about that a little bit more in depth. What is baby balayage? So baby balayage is what I just said, but we're going to break it down. So it would be adding a face frame, like we just talked about here, using your butterfly clip and finding these beautiful highlight pieces to paint. Now, you would be doing this while your guest is processing. So your guest is processes for 35 minutes with our permanent hair color. And so what I would say is probably about half the time in, you can take your guest back to the sink, lay her back in the shampoo basin, pull her hair back with one of these beautiful clips, and then go ahead and paint her balayage pieces right there. So it's during your processing time. You're not adding time to her service, but you're able to add a small upcharge. So that is one way to do baby balayage. The second way to do baby balayage really is going to have to do with just taking a small section right around the face and really focusing on doing single points. So we're going to go ahead and identify some beautiful points that will make her face frame pop. And really, we're talking about a balayage piece that's no bigger than this. Okay, let me just go ahead and show you again. No bigger than this. So there's not really enough room to do a double point. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a single point. We just want a couple bits of really nice pop there. And so that is something that you can also do while your guest is processing. So we're smashing up two things, color melting and baby balayage. Are you ready for the ride? Okay, so I already have mixed up the color that I'm going to be using for the color melt. So what I have mixed up is our new Majorelle Cool Enforced. So this is a cooler version of Majorelle Classic. Has more longevity in terms of color resistance to fading on the on the warm side. So you're getting cool fading, cool oxidation, but the true cool tones last for 4 to 6 weeks. So it's amazing, great coverage. And what we have offered in Cool Cover is a series of colors that are 0.1s and then a series of colors that are 0.13s. And how you identify it is simply by looking at the box end here. I know it's backwards for you, but you see how it says Majorelle, then it says 6.1, and then it says Cool Enforced. So that's how you tell the difference between a cool enforced package of 6.1 and versus a regular 6.1. Okay, and it's also different than cool cover. So cool cover, we also have a 6.1, but what cool cover is a more opaque coverage. So somebody who has more resistant grays that are harder to get covered, cool cover also darkens the hair about a half a level more, so you need to normally formulate a half a level higher so that the colors from a 6N look like a 6N. And again, it's more opaque, so you're not seeing as much light reflection through it, but it's still shiny. Okay, so I have mixed up here my 6.1 Cool Enforced with, and I am using our Majorelle Magi Creme. Let's get it into the light here. 12.5 volume. All right, so this is considered to be a pastel developer, and this is going to give me around approximately 1 level of lift. So since I'm doing her base as a color melt, I'm not really looking for a ton of lift. So that is why I went with the 12.5. We're going to get more deposit out of that, up to 1 level of lift. Second product that we're going to be using today is our new Blonde Studio 8 Multi-Techniques Powder Bonder Inside. All right, so I've been doing quite a number of demonstrations on this new product. I love the consistency when you mix it. It's super creamy, but the amazing thing is it glides onto the hair really well, foiling or balayage application. It also leaves the hair feeling really soft and conditioned afterwards. The other great thing about having the bonder inside is that you're actually saving time. So you don't need to spend the 10 minutes prior to using or mixing up your lightener to mix in the step 1. You don't need to do the rinse and then apply step 2 and let that sit on. All you need is all in this tub. All right, so it's a one-step process. All you do is mix your lightener, rinse it off, and then shampoo it. Okay, so you're going to get those amazing conditioning results from this beautiful lightener here. So what I've done is I've mixed, so I have my Multi-Techniques Powder 8 here, and I have Majorelle Creme 30 volume here, and I really like to use a shaker to mix my color and my developers, my color and my lighteners, because I'm introducing less oxygen into the mix when I'm using the shaker. So I'm actually going to use the shaker to mix my lightener. So what does it mean when you're introducing oxygen? So normally you're using a whisk or using some sort of spatula tool, and when you're using a spatula tool, it's more like you're folding in the developer and the powder together. But what that does is introduce oxygen, which makes it lighter and fluffy. So when you're using a whisk, that adds even more oxygen, and that's when you get a lot of lift and swell from your lightener. So what you'll find about the MT8BI, which is what we're calling it by short name, is a really creamy lightener that doesn't really swell. And it's really gonna not swell if you shake it in a shaker. So I'm gonna show you what that looks like in 1 second. You just gotta give it a really good shake. Then what I do is I take one side I'm gonna just scoop out, all right, the lightener into the other end. So one's gonna be my bowl, and then I'm gonna end up setting one half of the shaker aside. All right, and so this is what my lightener looks like. All right, I mixed it as a 1-to-2, so it's 1 part MT8BI to 2 parts 30 volume Magi Creme. All right, so that's what we're going to be working with today. So now I'm just going to transfer these over to my little semi-stool here. And we're going to glove up and get going. So guys, do you guys have any questions about color melting, about baby balayage? Do you have any questions about Cool Enforced, what it is, how it works? Or the new MT8BI. This is why we're here. We're here to answer some questions, throw y'all some knowledge. Okay, so I'm gloved up. I am ready to go here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring her in a little closer. I'm going to tilt this down a little bit more so you can see her better. All right, there we go. So I'm going to be working on her shallow side. So this is her heavy side. This is her shallow side, or her light side. And what I'm going to be doing is applying her color melt first. And then I'm going to go back and do the balayage pieces. So take your favorite brush for application. This one's mine. This is a L'Oreal Professional balayage brush. Can also be used to apply color. So I'm just going to load up. What I'm going to do is, always I like to start around the hairline. So I'm going to just tap, tap, tap. I want a nice clean hairline, right? You don't want to have to go back and clean up your guest, remove all the color from her face afterwards, because then the color's already starting to oxidize and you're going to start to see color on your guest's face. So if you just work a little bit neater, then you don't have to go back and fix it, right? It's the name of the game, right? Working smarter, not harder. Right, again, so now I'm just going to go at her root. Okay, so this side, the heavy side, I'm just going to leave alone. We're just going to be working on this thin side here. I'm going to move this forward so that I can do the back of this parting. I always like to outline my partings. Helps you manipulate the hair a little bit more easily as well. All right, and don't forget the underneath. All right, a lot of times we forget this part, right? And it's so important. Nobody wants gray hairs right by their ear. Now, luckily, with beautiful Ellie here, she doesn't have to worry about any gray hair. So she is a beautiful level 7. And so we just have to work on cooling her off. So basically that's what the 6.1 Cool and Force is going to do. It's going to tone down the intensity of her beautiful blonde copper. And we're also going to deepen it a little bit as well, because we're taking it from a 7 down to a 6. Okay. So now that I have that applied, just like normal, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a root section, right, split it off, and I'm going to hold it up a little bit like I'm doing a balayage, and I'm just going to start to feather in this Cool Enforced 6.1 by Majorelle. All right. Now, why I'm doing that specifically on the top layer is that I want to see a strong emphasis of the color melt that I'm going to do. And so I want it to be fairly strong. All right. Now, by feathering it in, you can still see where you're going to have places of light and dark. So I can go back in and drop in, a baby light right here. I can drop in a baby light right here. And then that way it's going to melt really, really well. So now I'm just going to set this over to the side. And now I'm going to just repeat that same action. So I'm loading up my brush. I'm going to take one more section here. Again, just like I would with the balayage, I'm going to hold out the section. Now it's a wider section than normally we do for a balayage, but again, we're doing a slightly different technique where we're just feathering on that color melt. Okay. So that's all we're looking to do. We want to create shadow. We want to create depth at her root level. All right, let's set that aside. And we're going to do that probably 2 more times. It doesn't need to go all the way through the whole section, right? We just want it on the top of her head above the parietal ridge, so above where the light naturally hits it. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this, fill that in, and now I'm going to just feather. All right. Hey guys, are you liking what you're seeing? If you do, throw me a heart in the chat box or give me a thumbs up. Let's interact, right? This is supposed to be fun. All right, so this is going to be my last section that I'm going to paint for her melt from the root area. So again, I'm just going to tap that in. And now just going back and feathering that in off of that root area. Okay. And on here, I'm not going to go quite as down. I'm not going to go down quite as far because it's now going to transition to where I'm not going to have any root melt. So now what I'm going to do is now I'm going to just flip areas of concentration where now I'm going to work on her hairline. So I'm going to take a clip. I always have clips and a towel handy. I'm going to just pin this out of the way. Load my brush up one more time. So I've already painted her here by going around and framing out the section that I'm painting. But now I need to go back in and work in that feathered action, right? And then I'm going to do it from the back as well. All right, I don't want any hollowness to poke through right all right, I don't want any hollowness to poke through right around the hairline. So now I'm going to go ahead and scoop out another piece vertically, and I'm just going to do the same thing. Tap it in at the root, feather, 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 and then feather the back as well. This is just giving us a little bit more dimension at the root level. So we have it up top. We want it a little bit from the side as well, because adding this dimension around her face, once we go back and put those pieces of baby balayage, this darkness is actually going to help those pieces of baby balayage pop even more. So I'm going to do one more section here. All right, so I'm just going to scoop out another section. Get her root, right, and then feather. And then feather over here. All right, and so we did, right, we surrounded the whole section from up top. So if I can let this all back down. So just to recap what we did for anybody who may be joining us, we're using Majorelle Cool and Forest, which is a cooler version of Majorelle. And same translucent gorgeousness, it just has more cooling properties for reduction of warmth. And what we did was we took this section that we're going to be working on here, we outlined the whole section with the Cool in Forest 6.1. I chose 12.5 volume because I'm only looking for really deposit, possibly up to a level of lift. And then what I did was I took horizontal sections, starting at the top here, and then I took the same Majorelle Cool and Forest 6.1 and feathered this down. So that is how I'm creating the melt, right? And then I did 4 sections away from her part line. So it's coming down just to the occipital, right where the round of the head is. So all that is going to catch the light. And even by catching the light and that we're darkening it, but that's what's going to make those brighter pieces look even brighter, okay? So that's the whole deal with that. Now, next step, right? She's looking good. Now, I said always have a towel handy because sometimes, you do get a little crazy, or I laid some hair over on her other hair here. So make sure you go back and clean up your section so you don't have any unwanted results. And now what I'm going to do is grab my next brush. And I am now going to work on my lightener pieces, so for the baby balayage. And so this is using the Multi Techniques 8 Bonder Inside, mixed with Magi Creme 30 volume. I am going to use my planchette for this one. So I have a second brush handy. I have a brush that I'm painting with, and I have a brush to load my planchette. So you take some lightener with your loading brush, you take your planchette, you apply your lightener vertical. Let's get a good amount on here. All right. Give yourself a nice amount to work with. So you're working on loading one side of your planchette, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use our painting brush. We're actually going to now remove lightener horizontally so that we can create a beautiful bead to paint with. And then one side of our brush can stay neat, and we basically are using one side of our brush. All right. So then, now I'm gonna dig down here and figure out where did I leave off. Okay, so this is the area here where I did not do any more root shadow. So I'm gonna go ahead and carve out this section again. Lay that over there. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and hold this piece out that I'm gonna balayage, right? And we're gonna be using these two fingers to be holding your balayage piece. That gives you the strongest amount of hold, and then I have my planchette in there as well. So it looks like that, right? The hair is between those two thumbs. Two thumbs. It's between the index and the thumb. And I'm also holding my planchette. So I'm gonna hold this hair out. What I'm looking for here is, where does the light live? Where is the light hitting this? I'm gonna spin her a little bit to you. So I have a beautiful ring light here, which is providing me some really great lighting. And basically you wanna use that overhead lighting or indirect light to help you find what's gonna shine, right? And by picking those pieces where the light is strongest, you're gonna be able to see the most amount of shine once the product is finished. So I'm seeing a nice shine right here. So I'm taking my lightener and starting and again, I'm doing a single, right? Just working on my saturation. I am gonna go into and over where I did bring the feather because we're melting, right? So I want it to melt from the darkness of the 6.1. We're gonna have an area where the lightener is going to soften the intensity of the deposit of that 6.1 because they're crossing over each other. And then we're gonna have some brightness where I'm putting this Multi-Techniques 8 with Bonder inside. Okay. Now, because I do wanna work in the front area as well, and we're trying to get as much pop as we can, I'm gonna just go in and add a secondary line. But it's not a 2-pointer, it's really just another one. I'm just holding it in one grouping, okay? So I'm doing my blend there through the Cool and Forced 6.1. All right, and then I am finishing up my balayage piece. Just nice and strong. Gonna load my brush again, or my planchette rather. Right, you're gonna use your planchette to drop this piece onto, so it has lightener on it, and then that's how we're going to blend zones 2 and 3. It's with the lightener that's already on your planchette, and then you're just going to slide it through, making sure that you have nice saturation. I need to add a little bit more lightener. All right. Okay. So again, you still want to get complete saturation on zone 2 into 3. So we get those beautiful pops, and I'm gonna go ahead and let that down. And what I'm gonna be using is Quick Mesh. So Quick Mesh is one of our products that we have. It's a thermal paper used for separating highlights or balayage pieces, but it just gives you a nice separation without using foil. I like it because it's really sticky, so that the hair color and lightener stick to it really, really well, and you don't have to be so fussy with it. All right, so now I'm gonna draw out this next section. How are we feeling so far, guys? You liking this? You liking what you're seeing? I love this little technique. All right, so I'm gonna drop this one down again. Going through that same exact process, I'm gonna load my planchette vertically. All right. And then I'm gonna load my color brush horizontally. Again, creating a beautiful little bead. Grabbing that hair. And what we're gonna do is just smooth it out. And again, we're gonna look for those areas of where it wants to be bright. So again, right around the front area. The hairline's always important to have beautiful brightness. And then again, I'm going to do one more behind it. All right, so baby balayage is really just an addition of a couple of pieces, like we're doing right now, or it's the addition of hairline pieces right around here, which I'm going to show you as well. So we got 5 minutes left. So what I want to do is I'm going to just go ahead and finish off saturating this zone 2 and 3. All right. You still want to do good work. I am going to have to show you the finished work so you get to see what she looks like. All right. Okay, perfect. So now let's just pretend I finished because we're just at a time limit here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of fold this back. I am going to use this butterfly clip. All right. And what I'm going to use my butterfly clip is to pull that hair that's right off of the hairline. I am going to clip it. All right, so it gives me those beautiful lines to work with. And then what I'm going to do once again is load my planchette. And then take my painting brush, create a beautiful little bead. And then, actually that bead's a little small, a little large. Where we're going here is super fine, so you want to just make sure you're getting a really fine bead. And then you're just going to go ahead and tap it in right where those teeth create beautiful places to paint. Right around her face. Take another little bead. It doesn't need to be everyone, again. That would look too uniform if everyone got painted. Right? So make sure you're paying attention to where is the light hitting, and then that is where you're going to focus. All right. So now this piece right now that I'm showing you is really going to be done at the bowl while she's processing. So this isn't an extra step to you, because you would normally be doing this in the bowl, where I'm doing it now just as a demonstration to show you what it looks like. So now what I'm going to do is I just want to clean these up a little bit. So I'm just going to take the tip of my brush and my towel, and I just want to clean those up a little bit. You know, you got to work neat so that your work speaks for itself. Right? Just clean that up. It's just removing a little bit of lightener so that it's strengthening where I actually have it placed and where I want the lightness to be. What questions do we have, guys? No questions so far? All right. I'm not seeing any Inoa hair color. So there's a question about Inoa hair color, which is not specific to our class today. But if you're doing blondes, which is what the question is, you can use our beautiful 0.3 series, which are golds. You know, anything that's in a level 8, a level 9, 0.3, 9.3 would be golds. And then we have our gold naturals, which is a way to cover gray in a softer way. Okay. Oh, we got a love for the new MT8BI, awesome. Asking what my ratio was. My mixing ratio for my multi-techniques for what I use today is the MT8BI. I did a 1:2 mix ratio. So I did 1 part powder, 2 parts developer, and I used 30 volume Magi Creme. All right, and then for my Cool and Forest, it was 6.1 and then 12.5 volume developer. Awesome. Awesome. Oh, hello from Pakistan. Awesome. Hey guys. Okay, let's see. Can we take a step back and center it? Might be a little too late. I just saw that comment, Miss Adriana. And our time has come to an end. I was trying to give you all the views here. Let me see if there's any more questions before I sign off. All right. Well, I hope you found this really helpful and something that you can take back to your salon and put to use. Never fear if you missed it. This is going to be saved on the L'Oreal Pro Education US IGTV, so you'll be able to go back and watch it anytime you like. I will also take a screenshot of it and save it myself, and I'm going to upload it to my YouTube channel, which is @Hair by Dave. So again, thanks for joining us today, and you guys have an amazing day.